Okay. So thank you again for having me here. This is really a great honor. This is really cool as this unfolds. Just getting to know everybody. This is I go to a lot of conferences, as I'm sure maybe a lot of you do. But this is unusually cool. It's very organic and we're interacting a lot, which is a lot of fun, because often at the big conferences there's people on the stage and there's these people out there and there's this kind of split. So I'm just really enjoying being here and getting to know everyone, so thank you. We have about 30 minutes and you'll give me little signals and stuff, right? Good, thank you. The topic for this is awakening our natural agility in the midst of work's challenges. And the reason why I was encouraged, or I suggested this topic of agility, is in my work in doing a lot of executive coaching, agility is pretty much coming down to be the key issue. And why is that? You know, Richard had spoken about it. The gentleman who spoke yesterday spoke about the fact that the kind of experiences we're having in businesses now is rapid, disruptive, unending change. In the past, basically what you try to do is stabilize your organization to have it be predictable. So the saying used to be, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? If it's not broke, it's fine. The saying nowadays, if it's not broke, break it, right? If you have a strategy, you've already missed the boat, so to speak. Now, why is this? I'd like to just give a few examples and then talk about why meditation is core to developing an agility in relationship to this disruption. First off, I love defining terms. And what do we mean by agility? So I did my homework before I came here and looked it up on all the dictionaries, and there's all kinds of little definitions. It goes, the old French, it goes back to ease. How do you say agilité? Agilité. So I'm getting good at it. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's a very old word, and the way I've combined it is the definition I'd like to use for this discussion is agility is to engage and adjust with circumstances with lively, relaxed, and discerning power. And we don't have enough time to sort of go through that, but it's important. When we think agile, it's almost just adjust, but it's not. You're adjusting to bring about a result, typically, and you're doing it from a place of power, right? So agility has that sense to it. So why is agility so important? I'd just like to give a few examples. One is what I call the principle of self-organizing, or what I call the self-organizing principle. Typically, in business, what we would typically do in the past is we look at the market, or we look at the product, or we look at a customer, and we say, hey, let's make a service or something that fulfills a need, master that ability and corner the market and make a profit, right? It's pretty simple. It doesn't work that way now. It doesn't work that way anymore, which is really cool. What happens is ideas and needs self-organize. Leading that is a very different type of style of leadership. So I'll give you an example of how this works. The company that does it brilliantly, that has completely mastered this ability to do it, is Google, right? So you may be aware of the fact that if you're a computer scientist or an engineer with Google, and even I guess some of the commercial and marketing people fit into this as well, at a certain level, you have to spend 20% of your time on a project that has nothing to do with your job. Now, at first glance, you're like, that's cool. I got all this free time. That's a lot of fun. But no, that's not how it works. What happens is, and what happened at Google, is it created an internal economy where all these engineers want to get on the best teams that are doing the most innovative work. So, for example, when you go onto Google, you've seen all the functionality. I mean, it's just insane, the amount of free stuff that we get, right? One of the coolest for me is the Google map, right? You can spin that little thing, you could go in and look and everything. And when I had first gone to Google and invited to speak there, that capability had just been launched. And they brought me over to show me how it worked, and it was really cool. Now, where did that idea come from? There was nobody sitting at the top of Google saying, all right, we're going to map the entire planet and offer it as a service to our customers. That's not how it happened. How it happened was a bunch of computer guys going, hey man, you know what we ought to do? We should let's take a picture of the entire planet and we'll make it available to everybody, okay? Yeah, let's do that. And they self-organized around an intelligent idea. Nobody at the top even knew about it at first. They started sort of getting a business plan or a thought process together. So this self-organizing principle is happening everywhere. And one of the reasons why it's rapidly happening is because another example of this is that we can scale our businesses very quickly, just like that. Anybody familiar with Etsy? Anybody familiar with Etsy? There's only 2 people familiar with Etsy. 3. This is a big secret, and I'm not telling anyone. Well, I would really encourage you to get to know Etsy. From all the people that I've met here, I'm quite confident when you get to know it, you'll go, oh my God, this is so cool. I was invited, they do a conference each year, but that's not who they're about. They're an online business, and they have a set of values that are truly inspiring. But the thing that makes them most powerful is that they can help you scale your business. So if you're an African woman in Nigeria and you make rugs, they can create a business for you so that you can reach customers from Siberia to Argentina. Your products, marketed, positioned, shipped, priced, and they can do it like this, real quick. They can scale your business. Now, your products have to meet certain standards for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but they can scale a global business. Marketing, distribution, PR, invoicing, finance, they can scale it very, very quickly. Well, that changes things, right? The rug business is no longer, Rug Inc. It's anybody who wants to be in the rug business. That creates enormous chaos, and it requires agility. One must be agile. You have to read what's going on. Who's your competition? Where can I get the best material? What's the best message? What's my customer really want? You got to know. I'm not going to go through many more. I'll get to the meditation and how meditation is key to engaging this. Another one is I do a lot of consulting, coaching of executives who are moving from one job to another. And I don't say this to all of them, but I say it to a lot. You don't want a job. You really don't want a job. Jobs are very, very limiting. Why do you want a job? Now you're tying yourself to a company, for God's sakes. Why would you want to do that? It just limits you. What we're finding, and there was a big article in the Harvard Business Review on this recently, is where employment is going is toward what's it called? Tours of duty. Is that we're actually recognizing that our jobs are impermanent. Has everyone already recognized that? Anyone not recognize that yet? Our jobs are impermanent. They do. Work cannot, I'm here to give you a secret. Work cannot give you any security. Big secret, right? We want it to, but it can't. It's not built for that. So tours of duty are really where employment is going, which requires agility. What are the skills that are being looked for? What are the companies that are in the market looking for talent? Who's there that's making the decision? How can I appeal to that individual? What are the challenges the company's having that I can actually meet? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It requires agility. And obviously, there's all kinds of things with technology, right? There's always something coming out. I just gotta have a website. It's nothing fancy, but I got a call from the guy who maintains it. As an email saying, "Oh, we just noticed that you're out of compliance and your website no longer works." I'm like, wait a minute. I said, well, you have to upgrade to the PHP Drupal #2, and you haven't done that. I'm like, what? I gotta be agile. Why am I not paying attention? What's going on here? Why did I miss that boat? So technology demands that we're agile, right? So we could go on and on about why this new 21st century economy is demanding a new perspective on how to thrive in business. And there's 2 articles that are made available. I brought them and they copied them. I think it's amazing. Front page of The Economist, in November of 2013. It's an essay on why Buddhism most likely will be the spiritual underpinnings for capitalism in the 21st century. I said, that's Economist. We're not talking the Utne Reader here, or, hippie magazine. This is conservative economics. Even to make matters even more interesting, there's another article. It was just in the New York Times, and it's written by a guy named Arthur Brooks. And you may know who he is, may not. He's the president of the American Enterprise Institute. The American Enterprise Institute is the most conservative economics think tank in the United States. We're talking Tea Party gone wacko. He argues in his essay in the New York Times that the Dalai Lama represents the values required for modern capitalism to survive. I mean, what did Michael say? I'm pinching myself. I'm pinching. How did this happen? It's amazing, All right, so with all of this disruption, all of this chaos, all healthy in many, many ways, not all, but a lot of it's healthy. How does this practice of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness awareness meditation, what role does it play in terms of this agility? What time does this end? Okay, good. So I'll tell a little story that I think illustrates one of the core issues with this agility. So like many of you here, I'm very fortunate to be invited into organizational settings to teach mindfulness meditation and to introduce this practice to business people. And there was one experience about 2 years ago where I was invited by a CEO to teach meditation to his management team. The CEO had come to one of my conferences or my workshops and was quite keen on mindful leadership and wanted to begin to sort of introduce the possibilities to his senior team. And this was a mid-sized financial organization, about 450 employees in the United States. So I show up Monday morning at 9 o'clock. That should have been a signal right there, 9 o'clock Monday morning. The CEO, we have a little coffee, and we walk into his boardroom, and his team is there, CFO, CIO, strat planner, head of customer service, sales guy. There's about 8 people in the room. And the CEO walks in and he goes, all right, I went to this seminar 2 weeks ago on mindful leadership. Michael Carroll was teaching. He's going to teach us how to be mindful leaders. Go ahead, Michael. And I'm like, this is not going to go well. So I start, and it's Monday morning, 9:20. We barely have had our coffee, right? So I'm like, okay. So I just started just talking a little bit. And as I'm talking, the CFO's going like this. Keeps looking at his watch, And eventually the CFO interrupts me and says, excuse me for a sec, excuse me. Could you bottom line this mindful leader thing here? Could you give us a bottom line, And I said, that actually I can. And it's a good question and it's a reasonable question. And I can give you the bottom line. In fact, I don't have to tell it to you. I can just show it to you. And he's like, oh, really? Yeah. And everyone perked up. And I said, yeah, I'll show it to you. I just sat there for about a minute. So what do you think happened? Anybody? Pardon me? I'm sorry? No, nobody laughed. People started getting very nervous. Very nervous. And I said at the end of my little 1-minute display, I said, so what happened? One of the fellows said, well, I thought something was going wrong. And one person said, which really is the sweet part of this, he goes, I thought things were unraveling. And so I said to them, as I'm saying to you, I said to these guys, just a little bit of psychological space. Just a little bit. And what happens? We panic. There's nothing going on here, guys. All I did was sit still. And we panicked. Is that interesting to you at all? Because if not, we can all go right now. I got other things to do. I tell that story because in mindful leadership, this issue of agility, we go to ground zero where the agility begins. We can talk about processes, lean engineering, which is, I'm working for a company that makes rockets, believe it or not. It's cool stuff. If there's any engineers here, that's cool. The adapting of engineering techniques. We can look at what Google's doing in terms of how you create an internal economy for talent. We could go on and on about techniques for becoming more agile as organizations. But mindful leadership goes to ground zero, which is your mind. That's where it begins. And the core move is, can you be comfortable in your own skin? Step one. Can you be comfortable? Just sit here. That's it. No big deal. No problem. But as we all know, We sit here for a little while, and we start wanting to have some other experience. This experience isn't good enough. I'd rather have this other experience. Something, anything. Yeah. In Buddhism, doing this is just not cool enough. Can't we have like beads? You know, wear a little something, you know? Anything other than this, right? So, this agility is really fundamentally a spiritual stance in how we engage complex and demanding circumstances. Doesn't really matter if it's at work, personal life, buying a cup of coffee, it really doesn't matter. Helping a fly. It's a spiritual stance, fundamentally, that is confident and at its ease. This practice is fundamentally about rediscovering that, being comfortable, just as who you are. Now, who we are is also an interesting discovery as well. We won't get into that here. So, the meditation, maybe we'll have discussion instead of me talking. Make one more point and we can just open it up. The issue then is this ease of presence requires that you are completely available to whatever's going on. That's like, it's not like you have to try to do that. That's happening with or without our permission. You may notice the situation's happening with or without our permission. And our toes are actually happening with or without our permission too. So the issue is this ease of presence is actually opening to that. 5 minutes. Well, I'll use the 5 minutes up. So why don't we just have any questions? It's so much more fun to have conversation. Anybody have any questions? Yes. So go ahead, I'll just say it yeah. Okay, good.
I'm always wondering, like, how to dare to take this space when there is this flooding of things coming in. There's always there's an information overload, and then how can you be sure that this is the right thing to do?
To create space?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, the idea of creating space or being comfortable with yourself doesn't mean that you don't act from a place of power. If I took this and threw this at you, you'd catch it, right? Yeah, of course. So the issue isn't that you aren't skillfully engaged with the melody of circumstance. It's that you come from a place of being comfortable with yourself, which is spacious. If you've ever been around, maybe you've met, enlightened teachers are always great to be around because they exhibit this. It's disturbing sometimes. You come in, you go, okay, I have an opinion, I really want it, and the person's like, whoa, stops you. That can be intimidating. There's no doubt. But the issue is poise is how you, remember our definition, it's to engage and adjust with circumstances with lively, relaxed, and discerning power. And what I'm saying from the mindful leader point of view and from the practitioner's point of view, it starts with being utterly comfortable in your stance. And you're a dancer, so you know. First, you're just comfortable in your stance. Then you move. Okay? 2.5 minutes. Yes.
Quel est le poids
What is the point
de l'intention
of intention?
quand vous discutez avec des
When
managers?
you discuss with managers, what is the point of intention?
Est-ce que le fait de
With the fact of
leur intention
updating their intentions, or
peut les aider à,
can that help them to
à changer leur point de vue?
change their point of view, or even their mind state?
When you say intention, do you just mean any intention?
L'intention avant d'agir. Donc, quand on est un manager,
When you're a manager, for instance,
on agit
you act, you decide,
et on actualise.
and we update our actions or intentions. The higher the intention, the more our action
Yeah.
is affected.
Yeah, I mean, intentions in the workplace are, it's like normal. I mean, I intend to provide the best customer service for these individuals, or I intend to fire you next week because you're not doing your job well, or I intend to buy and merge these two companies, or I intend to hire this person. They're all beautiful. There's no problem. How you execute against your intentions skillfully is key. If you do it from a point of confusion or resentment or toxicity or anger, you will invariably create enormous amounts of suffering. If you act on your intentions from the point of view of an open heart, with a sense of one's own dignity and agileness and comfort with yourself, the likelihood is you will produce a world that's kind and friendly, even in the midst of a mess. Because it's always a mess. It's always a mess. So intentions are, it's a good thing we have them. We wouldn't have electricity and white suits and things. Does that make sense to you, or did I answer your question? Or? Okay. All right. So I think we're done now, or? One more minute. Okay. This is more fun, talking than listening. Any other questions, or this person here? Okay.
I'm going to do it in French. So I have a question which is fairly general. I'm a business coach, and I've been doing this for about 10 years, facilitation and training. And I'd like to integrate the meditation in my approach. I'd like to hear what you have to say, or you could share your experience about the very first time that you talked about meditation with top management, or the very first time you introduced the idea of meditation. I feel apprehensive about it. I don't dare talk about mindfulness because I get the feeling that the customers I'm working with will not be prepared to listen.
Yeah, it's a good question. And by the way, Michael is going to be coming out with a book on mindfulness and coaching, right? So we'll be able to get some body of disciplines in a single place. So that'll be coming out. When's it going to come out? Next year, in a year. So we'll have something to work with there. I think this is a good question. And my approach is not, the issue isn't so much trying to introduce mindfulness to a client. And I would encourage everybody to not do that. Do not try to introduce mindfulness into organizations or to individuals. This is a great conference, so we can end now. So thank you. Now the issue is, what is it that my client is going through that I can be helpful? That's the key. That's the first and foremost issue. It's very much the bodhisattva approach of wanting to understand what the other person's about. What are they going through? If I'm being asked by someone who has to lay off half of their company, and I've been in that situation many a time, not many, but more often than not, I don't go, hey man, let's learn meditation first, and then we'll get the layoff plan together. It's just, this person's going through enormous suffering because they're going to be letting go of people. And helping them feel and be there for it and not be angry or frightened is really the main objective. And to do it with skill and compassion and as helpful as possible, laying off 25, 30 people, it's hard, So that's where you focus. Now, in the process of doing that, if you're a practitioner and you've taken these principles to heart, in the process of doing that with the other person, they'll go, I never thought about that. That's pretty cool. How did you learn that? You magnetize through your own presence and your own authenticity, a curiosity. For example, most managers do not want to be in the room when they fire people. They want an HR person sitting there so they can go, Franciane, it's been very nice having you here. Thank you very much. Your day's job's been eliminated. Talk to Joe. And they want to get out. Well, you might say, as I have, wait a minute. Stay in there. Ask them how they're feeling. How'd that go for you? God, it wasn't as bad, and I kind of helped, See what I mean? I didn't have to teach meditation there. I just tried to help us all be a little more human. Then the meditation comes. Does that make sense? Good. Good. Sure, thank you. Thank you very much.